Hello! Today, let's talk about Mao Zedong's wives. Among all the founders of China's dynasties and regimes, Mao Zedong's wives probably had the most miserable lives. There are four of them, and each lived through immense tragedy and pain. Luo Yixiu was Mao's first wife. In 1908, Mao was just a 14-year-old rebellious student when his father forced him to marry an 18-year-old girl named Luo Yixiu. They've never met before. It was a typical Hunan village setup. Mao's father thought that this arranged marriage would tame Mao's rebellious streak. It didn't work. The wedding happened, but Mao refused to consummate the marriage. He actually moved out from the village to continue his studies in the city. So he basically abandoned his new wife. For 2 years, Luo Yixiu stayed at Mao's parents' home. In rural China at the time, being a married woman rejected by your husband was a huge disgrace. She soon fell ill and died of dysentery at just 20 years old. Mao's arranged marriage to Luo left a deep mark on him. Many biographers think that this experience made him a lifelong critique of traditional marriage customs and pushed him towards more progressive ideas on women's rights. And look, whatever you want to say about the Chinese Communist regime, in its early years under Mao, China probably had better gender equality policies than most Asian countries. Yang Kai-hui was Mao's wife number 2 and his real first love. She was born in 1901 to an intellectual family. Her father, Yang Changji, was educated at University of Edinburgh and later taught in Hunan. Mao was one of his favorite students. When the elder Yang was appointed professor at Peking University, he managed to get Mao hired as the university librarian. In Beijing, Mao's romance with the daughter Yang Kai-hui flourished. She was smart, well-educated, and just as revolutionary as Mao. They fell in love and got married in 1920. She was 19, he was 27. Together, they lived an exciting, dangerous, revolutionary life. Both were zealous communist organizers. But things took a dark turn in 1927. The ruling Kuomintang regime, which was allied with the communists, suddenly labeled the Communist Party as enemy of the state. As a result, Mao fled to rural areas in Jiangxi province. His wife, Yang, stayed behind in the city Changsha to continue underground work while caring for their 3 children. In October 1930, Yang was captured by the Kuomintang. They demanded that she publicly denounce Mao. She refused, and she was tortured. On November 14, 1930, Yang was executed by firing squad at just 29 years old. Yang's death devastated Mao. He never forgot her. In 1957, nearly 30 years after her death, Mao wrote a famous poem in her memory. It's one of the very rare moments Mao talked about his love and loss. He Zizhen was Mao's third wife. Born in 1910 to a poor but educated family in Jiangxi, she joined the Communist Revolution as a teenager and earned this nickname, the girl fighter with 2 guns. In 1928, 18 years old He Zizhen met 34 years old Mao at the guerrilla communist base in Jinggangshan. They fell in love and got married. There are debates on whether Mao was aware of his wife number 2's execution before or after his new marriage. Wife number 3, He Zizhen, was a really tough communist fighter. She even joined the Long March between 1934 and 1935. Basically, the Kuomintang's well-armed government forces were chasing the communist rebels across 12,000 kilometers of mountains and swamps. During this arduous journey, He Zizhen was seriously injured several times. In her 10 years with Mao, she was pregnant 10 times. Yeah, Mao was just very highly active in that regard. But only one daughter lived with her parents until adulthood. Some died in infancy, others were abandoned. On one occasion, He Zizhen left a newborn baby with a village family, along with a note and some money. That's the last time she ever saw the baby. By 1937, years of war, injury, and grief had taken their toll. He Zizhen was showing signs of mental strain. She was sent to the Soviet Union for treatment. That effectively ended their relationship. When He returned to China in 1947, Mao was already the undisputed leader of the Communist Party and well on his way to conquering the entire China. In his personal life, he had long moved on. He Zizhen accepted her new reality. She accepted the divorce Mao imposed on her. For the rest of her life, she stayed away from politics and lived a quiet life in southern China. There are some debates on whether she and Mao ever met after 1937. Now we get to Jiang Qing, Mao's fourth and final wife, and she's easily the most controversial. Born in 1914, she had a tough childhood. Her father was abusive, and her mother worked as a maid, possibly even as a prostitute. Jiang Qing dreamed of a bigger life. In the 1930s, she moved to Shanghai and became an actress with minor fame. She also had a few short marriages. By the late 1930s, she had become politically radicalized. In 1937, she arrived in the communist wartime base of Yan'an. There, she took a job teaching drama at the Luxun Academy of Arts, which was a key cultural institution there. Yan'an wasn't glamorous, but it was full of revolutionary energy, and Jiang quickly made herself part of the scene. She gave lectures, staged plays, and acted in propaganda performances. It didn't take long before she started catching Mao's attention, and Jiang knew it. She made efforts to be around him, chatting at meetings, sharing literacy interests, and performing in shows he attended. Mao was in his 40s. His wife was in Moscow. Jiang was in her 20s. She was mysterious and captivating. Mao was captivated. When their romance became public in 1938, it sparked a lot of controversy among the communist leadership. She was seen as too glamorous, too bourgeois. Her career and relationships in Shanghai were considered too messy. Some even suspected that she was a Kuomintang spy. And not to mention that Mao was technically still married to his wife number 3, He Zizhen, who was a well-respected Long March survivor. Eventually, Mao got approval from the party to marry Jiang Qing, but with one important condition. Jiang had to stay out of politics for 20 years. Her role was to be Mao's wife only, not a public figure. Jiang kept her words. For 2 decades, she lived in the background. She managed Mao's household, raised their daughter, and stayed away from politics. But in the late 1950s, that 20-year political ban expired. Then came the Cultural Revolution. Jiang Qing's involvement in the Cultural Revolution is a whole story itself, so I won't get into it now. But basically, with Mao's backing, Jiang Qing became one of the core masterminds who launched the Cultural Revolution in 1966. She was also the leader of the infamous Gang of Four. When Mao died in 1976, Jiang Qing lost her protector. She was arrested and was sentenced to death, which was later commuted to life in prison. In 1991, Jiang Qing took her own life. Mao Zedong's 4 wives lived very different lives, but what they all share in common is immense sadness. Mao had all of China, but somehow he never managed to bring true happiness to the women closest to him. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you next time.